welcome back to episode 3 of the Back of a Length podcast. We are still here, still going strong, still putting out cricket content for everybody. I'm still here and Renee's still here as well. Welcome back, Renee. How are you this week?
Tēnā koutou katoa, Mark. I'm doing very well, and I'm also excited to be back. I'm excited about everything we do on this podcast.
You really are, and I honestly thought for a second there it was Dr. Ashley Bloomfield joining us as a special guest with the Tēnā koutou katoa. For those who don't know, that's a te reo greeting. Do you want to explain that a little bit more, Renee? You'd probably better off explaining that than me.
It just means, Mark, hello and welcome to more than 3 people. So I'm assuming there's more than 3 people that are going to listen to this podcast.
Well, we'll listen to it back, so that's at least 2 listens. So we'll get our listener rating up tenfold. We've got heaps of exciting stuff to get through this week, and we hope that you enjoy the content that we put out as much as we enjoy recording it for you. So strap yourselves in and listen to another episode.
Absolutely. It's been a huge week on the cricket field, but off the cricket field as well, Mark. We had a bit of an interesting interaction. We thought, you've got a test match, you've got the Super Smash, let's get on the Twitter and throw out some content, recap the series, make some predictions. And Mark put out a tweet that got immediately trolled by Jimmy Neesham.
Can I just point out, you say that Mark put out a tweet. It was from the official account. It was the official account.
You wrote this tweet.
We're in this together. There was a tweet that might have come from myself on the official account. That attracted the attention of Jimmy Neesham, shall we say. So Jimmy Neesham tweeted, I think it was on day 2, about Tom Latham going on to get, if he goes on to get a ton after being given out about 12 times incorrectly by the umpire, the Indian may go back to refusing to use DRS at home. And I saw this tweet and I was a few gins in and thought, do you know what? Who else has as many lives as Tom Latham's had? And I thought, a cat. So I very innocently tweeted from the account that they should start calling him the cat because he's had as many lives as a cat, to which Jimmy instantly, and I mean instantly, responded.
Instantly.
It was straight away. Responded. And he didn't even just reply to the tweet. He retweeted and quoted so all of his followers could see. And asked the question, is it really a life if you're just not out? So the umpire had given him out and he went through various DRS reviews, and Jimmy Neesham thinks that it isn't technically getting a life if you're given out incorrectly. Playing and missing isn't a life, which to some degree I agree with, but I am going to double down and state that Tom Latham is a cat because he gave himself as many lives as the umpires tried to take away.
I thought it was a great tweet. I thought you were really smart, but I also really enjoyed how Jimmy Neesham trolled you. If you want to see more trolling from cricket players, we are on Twitter at Back of a Length with a little underscore there. We always love tweeting content, even if we've had a few drinks.
Yeah, even when we possibly shouldn't do sometimes, or possibly should think through the content that we put out before we post it. But that's all good. We will move on quickly from that one.
Now, Mark, I had a piece of feedback from one of my friends, Scott. He said, great podcast, so thank you, but can you two debate more? Now, I think he's got a point, because we have often agreed on what's going on in the cricket world, but my thinking is, Mark, as soon as there's a game between New Zealand and England, the knives will come out.
Absolutely. We've got, the next game will be the Women's World Cup game at Eden Park, I think the 17th of March. So I'm looking forward to the episode after that, because I can spend the episode length just gloating about how fantastic England's women were.
It's not going to happen.
I'm willing
Zealand
to
woman.
bet that it will. I'm not so sure. I think England have got a lot of bases covered. But yeah, I agree. We do generally tend to agree with each other quite a lot, because I guess we've got the same interests in terms of obviously wanting the Black Caps to do well, wanting England to do well, wanting Australia to do horrifically badly.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, a bit more debate, and we'll try and bring that to you. And yeah, I appreciate the feedback, Scott. Thank you so much.
It's been a huge week of cricket, as we said. Our Tom Latham loves to do a sweep, and we love to do a sweep, so let's round up everything that's been happening.
I see what you did there. Very clever.
Thank you so much. Let's talk about Tim Payne after his big week before last week. He's taking a leave of absence in quotation marks for the
Yes.
foreseeable future in quotation marks. Not surprised.
No, I think it was always going to come. Something like that hits the headlines. I think you, especially with a massive series like the Ashes coming up, you probably want that the person who created those headlines to maybe just take a bit of a step back, especially with the captain being announced as well. I think it's probably best that Tim Payne has taken that step back, leave of absence, so the team can focus on what they need to do to retain the Ashes. So yeah, probably the least surprising news of all this week for me.
Yeah, definitely. And also not surprising, Pat Cummins has been named the Test captain for Australia. We talked last week about what a good move this would be for Australia. Nice to see one of our predictions come true.
Yeah, we'll go into our predictions a little later on in the episode. That's probably a sensible choice from Australia. What is possibly going to cause a little bit of a few rumblings, I guess, in the cricket world is Steve Smith coming in as vice captain. I can see why he's vice captain. He's obviously had that leadership role in the team previously as a captain, and he said in his interview with Cricket Australia that he still has that leadership role and still offers a lot in terms of leadership. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad choice, but as we surmised last week, you get Steve Smith back in a leadership role. Do Cricket Australia go backwards in terms of their approach and how they want to be viewed as playing the game? So, there were other candidates. And I'm sure you've got your thoughts on who could potentially be a better candidate for vice captain.
Yeah, I was a bit disappointed to hear that Steve Smith was back. I think, I just feel like he's been there, he's done that. You don't go from being the president to being the vice president. You feel like he's going to try jump Pat Cummins. I would have rather seen someone like Lyon or Stark take the vice captaincy, or even Labuschagne, who's only been in the team for 2 years, but he's going to be there for a while, so get him in, get him talking to the team. I just feel like it's a chance to grow some of these young players, and I think Steve Smith can be a leader without having a title.
I agree completely, despite the fact that we did say we were going to do a bit more debating in this episode. Look at us agreeing again. I think that, there's a bit of a thought pattern there behind Labuschagne in that I think most people believe that he's got what it takes to be a future Test captain for Australia. So why would you not bed him into that leadership group as a vice captain? And then if Pat Cummins either steps down, steps away, Labuschagne steps in as captain, either be it on a temporary basis or on a permanent basis going forward. So I probably would have gone for Labuschagne myself.
You touched on a good point there. If Pat Cummins is unavailable, does Steve Smith instantly become the captain?
I think he has to. That's the job as vice captain, isn't it? So even if Pat Cummins has to leave the pitch to take a toilet break or whatever, Steve Smith then assumes the role of captain. So that's why I do think it's a bit of a step back for Australian cricket in terms of appointing Steve Smith into that role, because I get, like you say, he's been there, he's done it. You want to blood some of the younger players to go on and take the mantle if Pat Cummins, for whatever reason, doesn't work out.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We'll see how that goes when the Ashes start in a few weeks. But meanwhile, there are plenty of tests on at the moment. Pakistan beat Bangladesh comfortably in their series opener. Our boy Shaheen Shah Afridi taking another 5-4.
Absolute gun, Shaheen Shah Afridi, and one of those players who will do it in any condition, any country. He is just a heck of a talent.
Definitely is. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka beat the West Indies in their first test over in the West Indies. Perth Scorchers won the women's Big Bash. Try saying that really, really fast. Oh, Lord. Shout out to Sophie Devine, top scoring for the winning side. We love Sophie Devine.
Yeah, she's a cracker, Sophie Devine. Not such good news coming out of the southern part of Africa, with both the Netherlands tour of South Africa and the ICC Women's World Cup qualifiers in Zimbabwe being called off due to another variant of COVID. So that is a shame. I was watching some of the Netherlands game against South Africa during I think it was a lunch break of the second day of the New Zealand-India test. And Netherlands started really well. They were somewhat competitive, and then there was about 100 partnership during the third wicket stand for South Africa. So Yeah, disappointing to not see that series through to a conclusion, and desperately disappointing for the likes of Thailand in the Women's World Cup qualifiers, who are now looking like they're going to have to go another 4 years without being able to qualify for that tournament due to the rankings and seedings.
That is correct. My understanding is the top ranked teams in that qualifier will go straight into the World Cup on our shores next year. That is the sweep.
Now it's time for our review of the first test, and on paper it was a hell of a test, and there were definitely ebbs and flows, ups and downs. We'll firstly go through the teams just for those who may have missed it or want a bit of a recap. New Zealand, they had Tom Latham, Will Young, Kane Williamson, Ross Taylor, Henry Nichols, Tom Blundell, Rachin Ravindra, who, did you know, by the way, Renee, a little bit of trivia for you, his first name Rachin is an amalgamation of Rahul and Sachin, as in Rahul Dravid and Sachin Tendulkar. Apparently that's the rumours coming out the camp. That is pretty cool, because he did bat like Rahul Dravid on the final session. They also had Kyle Jamieson, Will Somerville, Tim Southey and Ajaz Patel, opting to go with the 3-spinner option that Renee correctly predicted in the last episode. India, they lined up with Shubman Gill, Mayank Agarwal, Cheteshwar Pujara, Ajinkya Rahane, Shreyas Iyer, Ravi Jadeja, Riddiman Saha and some other filler. Ravi Ashwin, Patel, Umesh Yadav and Ishant Sharma. What are your thoughts on the team, first of all? Black Caps?
Well, I mean, you make a good point. On paper it made sense, but as a passionate New Zealand fan, I was horrified that Neil Wagner was not on that field. I don't care. You can make every argument about this pitch. It has been 6 months since I've seen Neil Wagner bowl, and you're going to deny me for another week. This was like, I can't. Mark, fix it.
It was certainly interesting to see Neil Wagner not in the team, and especially as you saw the test match go through, you did wonder if Neil Wagner could have offered something to the team. I agree, I was looking forward to Neil Wagner running into bowl and half trackers on a dead pitch and still managing to pick up 5 wickets. So very disappointed. The big news for India, as we mostly covered off last week, was that they had quite a few big players missing. Rohit Sharma wasn't there, Virat Kohli wasn't there, Rishabh Pant, who we thought may get a game, I think was rested, and the likes of Bumrah and Shami as well were missing. So you could say a somewhat under par team, but you look at that 11, Shubman Gill, Agarwal, Pujara, Rahane, Iyer, Jadeja, Saha, Ashwin, Patel, Yadav Sharma. They are all seriously good test players in their own right, so I don't think that they were too under strength.
No, I would agree. It was a very, very good side for India. I was surprised to see Somerville and Ravindra in the team. I would have thought Mitchell Satner would have come in for one of them. Didn't really get any word on why Satner didn't play. I guess they just thought those two would have done better. Yeah,
I think you probably would have dropped Ravindra if you were going to bring in Mitch Santner, because then if you dropped Somerville, you'd have had 3 left arm spinners in the team and there would be no variation. And I think potentially you look at Ravindra, who is a batsman more than a bowler, and he probably offered a bit more solidity in that sort of middle to lower order. So I think that's probably why he was chosen. And you've got to choose Ajaz Patel because he is your number one spinner as far as I'm concerned, especially in test matches. So yeah, there probably just wasn't room for Santner in terms of trying to get that balance. We hear so much these days about test teams trying to find a balance, trying to get that balance between having a decent tail, I'm going to call it. You've got a number 7 batsman who can still bat. Number 8 and number 9 still expected to score a few runs these days to offer a bit of strength to the batting lineup if the top order fails.
Well, first innings, India batted and New Zealand bowled. We talked up the spinners a lot. We're still talking about the spinners, but it was Tim Southey taking a fifer and Jamieson taking 3 wickets. So 8 out of 10 wickets went to our pace bowlers. So should they have actually played Neil Wagner? Like, genuinely, not just me ranting.
No, I think in hindsight they'd probably look back at it and think that Neil Wagner would have been able to do a job. You've played 3 spinners, or essentially 2 spinners and a part-time spinner in Ravindra. Somerville did not offer much in terms. He just didn't look threatening at all for me in the first innings. I do think that Neil Wagner probably would have offered a bit more of a threat with the ball. But yeah, Southey, the evergreen Tim Southey, just continuing to take wickets, and for me, a very, very underrated bowler. He's definitely had his moments in cricket where he's probably gone through a few lean spells, but you look at it, I think he's up there with the top wicket takers now in Test match history, so you can always rely on him. Jameson was, I think, always going to take wickets on a pitch like that from the height that he bowls at and the ball keeping low, although I don't think he got too many wickets that way. He's one of the players that you read a lot about him. We've said it before, he's 6'9" or whatever he is, bowls from a really tall position. It makes batsmen want to get on the back foot, but on a pitch like that they had to get on the front foot, and that indecision cost 3 batsmen their wicket for Jameson. And yet Patel getting the final 2, which is kind of, as you'd expect, the spinner maybe to clean up the tail in India. So yeah, not too much surprise there with that one, I don't think.
No, and we are talking up the bowlers here. They did obviously take all 10 wickets, but Shreyas Iyer getting 100 on debut.
He really was outstanding.
Testing those bowlers. Outstanding.
He was really good. He played a really good game. When it looked as though maybe the spinners were looking to get on top, he just danced down and plant one over the top for 6. Caused New Zealand to go a little bit more defensive, and I'll touch on this a little bit more when we get to the 4th innings about how aggressive batting can maybe be a saviour in defence as well. Shreyas Iyer, absolutely fantastic innings, and I think deserved man of the match, to be fair.
Definitely did. India posting a dominant total, about 340
odd, I think, wasn't it? Yeah, something along those lines. God. Probably should have looked that up before we started recording that segment. That's okay. 2nd innings, obviously New Zealand batting. Will Young opened the batting, which was another prediction that we got wrong.
Totally wrong. We were like, oh yeah, Daryl Mitchell will come in. I forgot that Will Young can actually bat, because he spends so much time as 12th man that I forgot he's actually a very good cricket player. Now, can I just divert this attention from the actual innings? Will Young, have you ever seen a cricket player look more happy during a national anthem than Will Young? If you've never noticed it, look out for it next time, because all the other players are like that half smile super staunch, and Will Young is just there with the most giant smile on his face. I'll try get a picture and put it up on the socials for the next game.
Just someone who loves to be there, loves playing cricket for his country, and that's what you want to see. And that obviously transcended into his batting, because he was the 2nd top scorer in the New Zealand innings. The openers did an outstanding job. Tom Latham getting 95. Will Young, I think, got 87. 89, because I had a bet on him to get more than 87 runs in the innings, which obviously came true. So that's why I thought 87. Yeah, the openers got a very, very good start, 150 odd, 160 odd for none, and then the rest of the batting, not the greatest.
Yeah, average.
Yeah, I think so.
Tom Blundell, a bit of a cameo down the order, but not enough to really pile on the runs. Nothing really out of Williamson, Taylor or Nichols.
Yeah, which was disappointing, because they, in theory, should be the mainstay of the innings, and they should really be looking to build on the platform that the openers set, which was, quite a platform. Tom Latham got some horrific decisions. How he got to 95, was able to maintain his concentration with how difficult potentially the pitch was playing early on, and then getting out to some shockers so often. And yeah, as you say, he's a cat because he had so many lives, but.
And Mark, would you say he had to stop? He had to review. I think he used 3 reviews. Does that disrupt the flow of a batsman?
I think it has to play on your mind a little bit, because I think if you know that you're getting bad decisions from umpires, you know that you're probably not going to get the marginal decisions either. If you're getting rough ones where you've nailed it into the middle of your pad, you're then potentially worried about one that's going to just be maybe umpire's call on hitting the top of the stumps, or umpire's call on impact and being outside the line. I'm not a professional international cricketer. I think they're probably a little bit more mentally tough than me, but it would certainly play on my mind in that if am I going to get a rough one? And is it going to be one where the umpire necessarily shouldn't give it, but umpire's call will save the decision for the bowling team? But thankfully that didn't really materialise. He made full use of the DRS system, which is what it's there for, is to get rid of those decisions that aren't correct and aren't great. And Tom Latham loves a sweep as well. He played some sweeps.
I was worried we were going to turn it into a drinking game and it's, take a shot whenever Tom Latham sweeps. Oh my lord, I don't think we'll still be hungover. We wouldn't be able to record the podcast.
I think we should probably do that for the second test, just for a laugh. Yeah. Should we try and record a segment during that particular episode? See how we get on.
That is so terrible. We are a professional podcast. Let's talk about India's bowling. They bowled New Zealand out for under 300. So you're going to think they did well, but Ashwin would bowler's ball run on the pitch. What's going on there?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Ravi Ashwin, I'll be honest. I think he's a great cricketer and he should let his cricket do the talking. He's obviously had a lot of exposure somewhat negatively previously, given his propensity to try and mankad batsmen, especially in T20s. And he moans about batsmen gaining an unfair advantage, but then whilst he was batting, he was running right down the middle of the pitch, digging his spites in, turning around, and when singles are getting refused on a good length. When he's bowling, he's running across the umpire straight into the path of the non-striker, which I think was the big issue. I think he wasn't necessarily running on the pitch. He was running right in front of the non-striker, which is going to potentially, you're not allowed to do it. You can't block a non-striker you can't block any bats from taking a single or two or whatever. So the umpire had a chat with him, and as Ravi Ashwin always does, he chose to argue it, thinking that he was right, and he just wasn't. Get on with your cricket, Ravi. Do what you're best at. Take wickets. Don't mess the pitch up. Just let the ball do the work. Let your bowling do the talking, and not your on-field antics, please, because we are sick of it.
Yeah, we just want to see good, solid, fair cricket.
We sure do, and yeah, hopefully we'll see that in the next test.
New Zealand back with the ball in innings 3. They got off to a really good start and it all looked like it was going to go really, really well. Jamieson and Southey, of course, back in the attack. I think they were down to about 50 for 3 or 4. And
50 for 5 at one point.
50 for 5. Oh, I remembered it. It was better than I remembered. 50 for 5, and then the pitch kind of just levelled out or dried out, and India kept on batting and batting. And batting. Yeah,
it was one of those pitches where if you get in, you were able to judge the pitch and you were able to cash in once you got in. Shreyas Iyer showed that in the first innings, and once again he showed it in the second innings with Riddiman Saha as well. When they got the wicket of Jadeja, you're thinking, do you know what, this is game on. 50 for 5. They had a lead of 100, and you're thinking that is definitely chaseable on this pitch. Riddiman Saha comes into bat, having missed the majority of keeping duties in the first New Zealand innings due to having a stiff neck, which at the time you think is a little bit questionable, because the wicketkeeper who came in, I think it was KS Bharat, for me probably changed the course of that innings. He took 2 very, very good catches and also got the stumping of Tom Latham. But Riddiman Saha came out to bat after Jadeja, and he put on, I think he got close to 50, if not got 50 himself. So yeah, he and Iyer definitely made a big inroad into the leads that they were able to post, and they ended up declaring 7 down and setting New Zealand a target of around 280 to win the test match.
New Zealand came back into bat. Will Young got a really tough blow late on day 4. He should have done a Tom Latham and used the DRS system.
Yep, you've got to look at the umpiring decisions that have gone before and think, do you know what? Especially with the situation of the game as well, you've got 3 reviews. It's definitely worth bearing one, because a decision like that, at the very least, you're going to get umpire's call, which means you retain your review. At best, you're going to keep your wicket, you bat out the rest of the day, you come back next day, no wickets down. Can we go on and win this? Yes, we can.
I thought Tom Latham was really good again at the top of the order. A lot of friends of mine have said, Tom Latham, he can only play in New Zealand. I think this has put to rest those rumours. He played very, very well.
He was solid on a pitch that, the ball was keeping low. He played it with soft hands, as you would want him to do. He was there to bat time, did his job, accumulated runs, and for me was just exactly what you wanted there at the top of the order. Take the shine off the new ball.
Yeah. Also good to see Somerville hanging in there for a lot longer than India would have liked. He was the night watchman that came in when Will Young got out, and he was still there at lunchtime the next day.
We questioned after the first innings why Will Somerville was in the team, and we did not know that it was a tactical masterstroke from Kane Williamson and the Black Caps to have him in as number 3 in the 4th innings. I don't think he came out as a night watchman. I think he could be a genuine number 3 going forward.
They would certainly mix up the order. Unfortunately, he went first ball after lunch.
First ball after lunch.
It was disappointing. Very disappointing. Probably had too much to eat. Williamson, Taylor and Nichols again not delivering. Rachel Ravinger then came in, and I will give him credit here. He hung in for a long time and just defended and probably got New Zealand the draw.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're wondering when you're getting at lunch on day 5, 1 wicket down, Somerville's set, Latham obviously doing what Latham does. You're wondering, are you going to go on and win the game? I had a few tweets and saw a few tweets about New Zealand not being proactive enough in trying to win the game and score runs. I do think that they played it pretty well. I think, during the second session, they were consolidating, trying not to lose wickets. My theory is that had they have got to the final session with Williamson and Taylor still at the crease, the final session would have been when they had a dip for an hour. See where they end up. But the most important thing, I think, and that shone through at the end result, during that second session, put yourself into a position where you cannot lose the game. Then you can think about going on to win the game. And I think that's probably what they would have looked to do. But that blow of losing Taylor on the stroke, the last ball before tea, and then losing Williamson so early after tea and Nichols after tea, you can't expect much more from Ravinger other than to try and save a test from that stage, because he's not going to go on and win the game single-handedly with Southey, Jameson and Patel as his only batting partners.
Yeah, I think the draw was the best option after those wickets went near tea. So New Zealand, India draw this match. They share the points for the first New Zealand game of the World Test Championships table. That does make an interesting point on that table, because currently Sri Lanka are number 1.
Yeah, well, I saw that. I saw something else, and I can't remember what it was now, but it had New Zealand down in 12th on the table due to there's just the fact that they've not played any games. And I think it was qualification for the 50-over World Cup in 2023. Something like that. It was something ridiculous. And you're thinking, obviously they're going to at some point play an even amount of games, but I just thought New Zealand had played 3 ODIs and won 3 ODIs, so they had a 100% record, but were second bottom on the table due to the fact that they've just not played any games.
Well, as the former ODI World Cup winners, New Zealand will be definitely back in that.
The former ODI World Cup winners?
Yeah.
Right, yeah, okay. Well, move over that, because I don't want to lose any listeners with my response.
Okay,
team changes.
Let's get back to the test. So we will go into another game up in Mumbai this week. What changes do you expect for the teams?
I'm not going to make any predictions because I've not made one correct prediction yet.
I'm going to make one.
Go on.
You'll never guess what it is.
I think you're going to say, what could it be? I think Waggy Waggy Woo Woo might potentially come back into the team.
Neil Wagner back on the pitch is my prediction. If he's not, I will fly to India and I will dress him up in a wicketkeeper's helmet and get him on there.
Good luck getting an MIQ spot on the way back. I think you're right. My understanding of Mumbai and the Wankhede Stadium is that it is a much faster pitch. It's a harder pitch, so that will definitely suit Neil Wagner down to the ground. I think you'll probably look to drop a spinner, and it's really tough on Somerville because he obviously did his thing with the bat, but I do think that Will Somerville will come out and he will be replaced, because I think it's between Ravindra and Somerville, and I think given the way that Ravindra batted, I think he's probably likely to keep his place in the team at number 7, and Somerville for me will come out for Wagner.
I think it is great what Somerville did with the bat, but Somerville's not a batsman.
Yeah, that's not his job.
It's not his job, so yes, sure, he did great, but you have to put the pressure back onto Nichols and Taylor, neither who really did anything in this test match. I mean, they're not going to get dropped, but I think those top 5, top 6 with Blundell need to do a bit better and actually not be in a position where Ravindra or Somerville or any other bowler should be top scoring.
Yeah, I think the pitch at Mumbai, if it is a bit better, a bit more bouncy, less dead, less conducive to spinners, will probably suit Nichols, I think, a lot more. He did not look too comfortable against the spin of India on a really slow, low pitch that was turning. He had a really fantastic summer in New Zealand last summer. He put a few doubters to bed with his performances. He got at least 100 last summer against Pakistan at the Bay Oval. Yeah. So, yeah, I think it'll suit him more, and he'll score some runs. That's my prediction. I'm backing Henry Nichols to get some runs in the next test, and I am apologising in advance because none of my predictions come true. So sorry, Henry Nichols, if I've just given you a big fat blob.
Oh no, I also rate Henry Nichols, so I'd love to see him score some runs. I'm going to back Ross Taylor to score a good total up in Mumbai. Will we be right? Will we be wrong? We will be over on the Twitter throwing out predictions, arguing with Jimmy Neesham, and doing all sorts of other things. You can find us at back of a link with a little underscore. It was all about Test cricket offshore, but here in New Zealand, the Super Smash started. Oh, what a great start it was to the tournament too. Now, down in Canterbury, we had Wellington versus Canterbury, and the Wellington sides started the season how they intend to carry on. Blaze beating the Magicians, Melly Kerr setting the bar with 71 runs off 55 balls and 4 wickets for 12 runs. She is a superstar.
That's a pretty sensational performance and not a bad way to start your account for the summer. Frankie Mackay did her best to rein it in. She got 3 wickets but went for 41 runs as ultimately the Wellington Blaze came out winners in that game.
Then the Firebirds took on the Kings, and Finn Allen came out and thought, you know what, it's been a long time since I've played. I'm going to hit my first ball I face for a 6.
What a way to set the tone. Just who comes out and goes, do you know what, first ball, I fancy a 6, fancy a strike rate of 600, so I'm just going to go and do it. Finn Allen is one of my favourite cricketers. He's one of these sort of new breed, I'm not even going to call it a new breed anymore because they've been around a while, but just T20 cricketers who don't care. They just go out and try and hit every ball as hard as they can, as far as they can. And for Finn Allen, once again, it came off 57 runs in not so many balls. He set the tone really, I think, for the rest of the Firebirds innings.
Yeah, he was helped along there by Georgeson. He got a 30. It was Ed Nuttall that ended Allen's fun. Nuttall taking 3 wickets overall, the highest of the bowlers there. The Canterbury Kings didn't really get off the mark. Boyle scoring the only one to score more than 30. Will Williams coming in with 29 towards the end. Michael Bracewell took 3 wickets, breaking the partnerships in the middle order. And shout out to Nathan Smith for taking one of the most incredible catches I've ever seen. I'm going to try and describe it, even though this is a audio medium.
This will be good.
So I am Nathan Smith. I'm like, there's the ball, it's coming. I'm running. I jump
there's
up.
The ball.
Jump up.
Is that what fielders say when the ball goes up in the air? They go, oh, there's the ball.
It is. Okay, so he grabs the ball. Okay, so he grabs the ball in midair, and then he goes, oh no, I'm going to go over the Toblerone.
Sorry, I just almost spat my drink all over my laptop.
And so then he lets go of the ball, puts one foot on one side of the Toblerone while the ball's still in the air, and then jumps back up, grabs the ball midair, and then lands back inside the field. It
was quite a sensational catch, not as sensational as that audio description of the catch, but it was a great catch all the same. If you've yet to see it, you can literally see in his eyes as the ball goes up, he goes, there's the ball, and then as he looks down, he goes, there's the rope. And he does something incredible in between. Thank you, Renee, for that audio recap of a sensational catch.
You can probably just watch the highlights on Spark Sport.
Yeah, absolutely. But I recommend listening to this first because you'll get a much better sense from an audio perspective of just how incredible it was. So yeah, the Wellington Firebirds ended up there on top in that game and getting the victory. Sunday was the Otago versus Central game. Susie Bates, she set the pace again for the Sparks. We talk a lot about setting the pace there at the top of the order in 2020, but she really did with a top scoring with an innings of 64 off of 52 balls.
The Hinds had an okay performance with Watkin and Atkin. Jensen spoiling the Hinds fun by taking 4 wickets for 20 runs. The Sparks winning by 8 runs there. Then the Volts took on the Stags. Hamish Rutherford scoring 82 and setting his team up for a big total. They looked like they were going to go really, really far. The Stags, they had some other ideas. Dane Cleaver scoring the first 100 of the season in just game 4 of the Super Smash. And Greg Hay bringing up 50 for his first game in 7 years.
That's not bad going, isn't it? Still being in Nick 7 years after your last game. But yeah, Dane Cleaver definitely stole the show there. He scored a pretty rapid 100. But my favourite part was him tapping it to mid-on for a single and giving up halfway with a massive smile on his face as the ball just rocketed towards the stumps. You could see the relief as the ball missed the stumps. He got the single and got through there for the 100. And yeah, for thoroughly deserved win there for the Stags. They, on paper, won it, well, they did win it very comfortably, but they had a bit of a stutter there towards the end, losing, I think it was 3 or 4 very quick wickets. But yeah, they didn't need too much and were able to get through there at the end.
They had about 5 runs to go and they just couldn't get it. Doug Bracewell going for a golden duck. He thought he might finish it off. Unfortunate news for the Volts. Michael Rippon going for about 50 runs off 3 overs. Good news though, his hair still looks as good as last season.
Still on fleek.
If you're going to go bad, you might as well do it on fleek. That's a wrap up of the Super Smash. We will be back next week to wrap up this week's games. They are back on Friday. It's time for my favourite segment again. It's the first 11 of the week. Now, last week, Mark said that he was going to skip out of the podcast pretty soon and start narrating the Harry Potter books. In the meantime, Mark, before you go on that big adventure, we thought we would come up with the first 11 of Harry Potter. Now, this isn't about lookalikes, right? Because that would just be the first 11 of celebrity doppelgangers, which is another first 11, obviously. Now, this is about... Spoiler alert, that's a first 11. If you can think of a topic, it's probably a first 11.
Yeah.
Now, the first 11 of Harry Potter, it's about cricket players that embody Harry Potter characters. Because the way I see it, Mark, a bat is basically a wand.
It is. That is a very good Harry Potter simile. So we'll give you guys an example and we'll give you an easy one to start with. We think that Voldemort could be played by, or should be, and would only be played by David Warner.
It is an absolute no-brainer. I've also put Richard Hadley is Dumbledore. Old and wise.
Agree with that one. Old wise, just a bit of a father figure. So yeah, I would go along with that one as well. We have Marcus Stonis as Luna Lovegood. Now, I came up with this one, and I've not really seen too much of Harry Potter, but Luna Lovegood she's just a little bit airy-fairy. She's just kind of like, she floats along and probably doesn't really know what day it is, but when she needs to be called upon, she delivers. And I think Marcus Stonis probably fits that character relatively well. Definitely
does. Now, we've also put Adam Zampa down as Draco Malfoy. A bit of a follower, you could imagine him being a bit of the guy that went along with all the big guys at high school.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one who would, he'd play the cock of the walk up until the point whereby he needs to back up his talk, and then he would hide behind the big boys. and that I think is pretty good Harry Potter wannabe.
He definitely would be. Now, lovable, handsome, and very good at his job, the wonderful Jimmy Neesham is Cedric Diggory.
Yeah, again, probably another no-brainer, I think. Everything that you've just described would definitely have been true before he trolled me on Twitter. And I think probably still is, to be fair. Yeah, just a good-looking fella who's good at what he does and is quite knowledgeable as well. Now, the last one that you've got, I will admit, I don't know who Oliver Wood is, but you've got him played by Kane Williamson.
Now, Oliver Wood is the captain of the Gryffindor Quidditch team, but in Harry's first year and second year, the team don't win the Hogwarts Quidditch Cup due to unfortunate circumstances. And I thought, Kane Williamson also hasn't won a few World Cups. But in the third year, Oliver Wood wins his World Cup. So I'm going, his Hogwarts World Cup, sorry. Oh my god, just keep saying World Cup. It must be on my brain that Kane Williamson needs to win a World Cup. The point is, two captains, eventually they both get a trophy.
So that is what we've got to date. Now, what we want you guys to do listening in is to have a little think along the same lines as what we've done and come up with your own suggestions and submit them to our Twitter page, our Instagram page, Twitter, as we say again, at back of a length with a little underscore, and our Instagram page is just back of a length. And we will look to complete that 11 next week, I believe. We end this week as we ended last week. Again, I felt a little bit left out there with the cricketing 11s, so I decided to throw out a poem, and I've done the same again this week because I am a poem wizard. No reference there to Harry Potter whatsoever, I promise.
Yes, it was.
Poem basically wraps up the week, so here we go. The first test began in Kanpur. Nobody knew what we were in for. Would the batsmen bat their team to victory, or would it be all over on day 3? It turns out neither would happen, as bowlers were on top, but so were batsmen. Though runs became hard to come by, as the life in the pitch would slowly die. Umpiring decisions were poor. Latham was given out incorrectly ×4. Review after review because he's not a quitter, as we got trolled by Jimmy Neesham on Twitter. Eventually the teams could not be split, though India came close to winning it. The light meter came out more and more, and in the end we shook hands on a draw. The Super Smash also began this week, and it featured a long over from Logan Van Beek. Finn Allen smashed a 6 first ball. On his way to 50, he aimed to enthrall. Wellington with 2 points in the bag, along with the Central District Stags, who owe their win to the awesome Dane Cleaver, who started a Super Smash with 100 fever.
Well done, Mark. That was a great poem, although a bit cheeky for you to call out Logan Van Beek for a big over when someone I know hit 18 balls.
I felt his pain during that over, so I thought it would only be right to reference it and get ribbed a little bit more for it.
Well, that is the end of the podcast. We hope you have enjoyed it. If you want to get in touch, we of course on Twitter and Instagram at back of a length, Twitter with a little underscore. We'll see you here next week. We will have a look back at the second test, and we'll be back with the Super Smasher, of course.
We'll also have a super duper feature of the Ashes, given that the Ashes will start. The first test starts on the 8th of December, and we'll also have a guest on from Australia, one of my mates who, unfortunately for him, is Australian, but we thought it would only be right to get an Australian perspective on things, and I cannot wait to ask him all about Tim Payne.
Yes, neither can I. We will see you next week for a fair chat on the Ashes and all other things cricket.
See you guys.